Hey, I see the
Marianne.
recording thing. So I will go ahead and do this again. Um, Hi, welcome to my class. So you want to start an Amtgard park. We're going to talk briefly about the realities of starting a park. And everything is in the slides except for some other stuff, which there's a document that you can read, but we'll get there. I am Prince Lord Squire Onishi Katzushinsei. I go by Shinsei for short because I know that's a mouthful. I founded Scholar Stronghold, which is a park in Macomb, Illinois, restarted Cursed Prairie, and I currently play in Phoenix Tiers. I started playing in Forsaken Lakes, which is a park that no longer operates. Some of my favorite things I've done in Amtgard are starting Scholar Stronghold and 13 Roads. Scholar Stronghold had an amazing start with some really awesome kids. They're just young college age kids that were really into it when I went for it, and they were really excited. 13 Roads has been awesome. It has a number of really awesome parks, helping me like achieve a dream that I've been working with for like my 15 years in Amtgard. I've pushed out Nazis and I've pushed out domestic abusers. All pluses in my eyes. I love my roses and lions and the work that goes into them, and I enjoy long walks on the ditch field. Why this class? Why am I teaching this class? Mostly because I love doing the Amtgard politic thing. I know that it's not for everybody. It's kind of for me though. I get it. My head just works around it. And I grew up in a fractured area that had a lot of bad behaviors, ranging from things like theft of coffers to people who just abused power and did things that they shouldn't, and just hasn't had a lot of oversight. I started parks from scratch, and I know that the process can be confusing, but the biggest reason is that I felt Amtgard.com didn't paint a good picture of what it was really like to start a park. They kind of said, here's this document, you have to sign here, sign here, sign here, and boom, you're an Amtgard park. When in actuality, there's more. I wrote a 5-page essay on it, and then Kelly saw that and was like, you should teach a class. And so I developed this PowerPoint. You can see both the PowerPoint and the essay. I believe there are links to the PowerPoint on Kelly's website for this class. Questions so far? Okay, I figured not, since we're doing this a second time. Step one is to read the rules, and I don't mean like read and memorize the rules. Just read them. Figure out the format and the order of the rule book, because it is laid out in a way that does not mesh well with my brain, and I kind of had to just settle for a non photographic way of learning the rule book. New players will bring you questions, and you will have to. I'm not sharing the PowerPoint. I should be. Oh, we are full of technical difficulties today. Are we sharing it now?
Oh, there we go. I see it
Okay.
now.
Okay, good. Fantastic. Yeah, so read the rules and memorize where things are, but not necessarily what those things are, if that makes sense. You want to be able to crack open the rule book and find the place that answers the question that you are being brought by a newer player. And a lot of times rules arguments and discussions end with people being like, just show me where in the rule book it says that. And so if you can do that quickly, you can end an argument quickly before it explodes or becomes anything else. Also, while you're doing this, kind of have an idea of what you want to do for Garb and how you want to do it. It's not a thing that you need to move on right now, nor are weapons. I really recommend getting a grasp on that rule book, and things will start to fall in place after that. Step two is to pick a persona name. And not a lot of other organizations like have you do this, but Amtgard is a weird one, because like the name that you pick sticks with you for 15, 20, 30 years, while you're playing this game. The contract that you sign for Amtgard will also use this persona name. And it kind of, I think it developed earlier on in Amtgard's culture to kind of give people a certain anonymity, or to be able to talk about a person without mentioning them by name and clarifying who you're talking about. And it's a piece of culture that's just kind of stuck. Step 3 is a little more work. You have to find 4 people. You're looking for players and you're looking for administrators of this club that you're trying to form. You can point them to this video or this document, and hopefully that will get them going and kind of get them on the same page. Another thing that you can do is road trip and network and find this practical experience of Amtgard and understand whether or not it is for you or any of those 4 people. We do have somebody in the class who's looking to start a park who is already an Amtgarder, so they kind of have an edge and they understand what Amtgard culture is and they know that Amtgard fighting is for them. But you're going to find people that like get tagged with a foam stick once and they're like, no, this is not for me. This is not what I signed up for. Just because they had a different picture in their head. I don't think that's anybody's fault, but it's important to realize like Amtgard is not for everyone, and not in the sense that Amtgard is something to be gatekept, but like some people are going to experience Amtgard and be like, this is not for me. Be compassionate is all you can really do in that situation. Overall, the steps that follow are going to contain, compassion and like understanding from other people's point of view. It's important to help each other and to communicate as you move forward and form this club. And I can't understate that. Like, you have to communicate, you have to talk to each other, and you have to make points clearly. And sometimes that means busting out, a piece of paper and literally drawing, what you're talking about. And if you need to do that, do it. Step 4 is picking a chapter name, which seems to be hard for a lot of people. It's not a huge deal. It's something that can be changed in the aftermath. Just pick something. It doesn't mean anything to outsiders what your name is. And if I told you that, yeah, I'm going to Phoenix Tears, you as an Amtgarder might understand what that means. But most other people are going to require a deeper explanation. That kind of ties into perspective and marketing. And you want to know what outsiders are going to think when they hear that. So you want to keep it kind of friendly in a weird way. Like Scholar's Stronghold is an incredibly friendly name and provides a forward foot. Like, you're dealing with people who are people who want to learn and people who want to do something. I don't know what this crazy club Amtgard's all about, but there's this place called Scholar's Stronghold. It's more inviting than like, I don't want to pick on a particular park, but Grim Garrison has a kind of spooky name, and I don't know if that's affected any recruiting for them. But there's all sorts of parks with names like that, and the name that you pick kind of has some impact on your recruiting. I can do a 2-hour class on marketing, and I'm working on it. So stay tuned for that if you want to learn more about that. Step 5 is to fill positions. For the area that I'm in, the real concern for Taldagor was to have a monarch and a PM. There's typically 5 positions. I recommend you fill 2 or you fill 4. At some point, they're probably going to get filled. 2 people in positions means that you have more players and you have less administration. So there's not as much need for communication, but 2 people can only get so much done. If you move to 4, you have more hands in Amtgard, but you have fewer sole players. And if you've ever been in a leadership position, burnout is always a concern. It's always something that's in the back of your mind, like, I'm just too tired. I have a lot going on my plate, and that can really interfere with running things. But if you're a sole player, like when you play Amtgard, you play Amtgard, and when you're not playing Amtgard, you're a member of that club, but you're ostensibly done for the week. Your responsibility is to show up and have a good time, as opposed to show up and make sure others are having a good time, which is a different kind of energy drain situation. Keep in mind, we're like any other club too. Monarchs are presidents, prime ministers are secretaries and treasurers, regents are vice presidents. I stress this because a lot of people hear, well, he's our monarch, and to the outside that has a weird sound. But if I say, oh, he's our club president, like that makes more sense to people outside of Amtgard as you're moving along. And having that mindset is part of that whole marketing thing. Just want to touch on that. A monarch should listen to dissent from any other officers closely. The people that are in those positions care. They're not presenting things that they see as issues out of malice. They're trying to make the place that they play in better too. And they're your peers. They're people that you trusted to take these positions. You should trust that their opinions are honest, and are for the best interest of the group. At that point, have everybody find one more person to come play Amtgard. Even, and I say come play Amtgard, but like that can mean being a water bearer on the sidelines, or a warrior, or somebody who's really just interested in Amtgard for the arts and craft culture, or somebody who wants to do leadership positions. Taldagor for a long time had a graduate student in business sit on our BOD, was not involved with Amtgard in any capacity beyond sitting on that BOD. And his input was fantastic, and in some situations vital for understanding the perspective of an outsider to Amtgard, but as well as like getting things done and managing money and doing the paperwork that came along with those high level things. So everybody has something that they can bring to the table, and it's just convincing them to come to the table. Step 6, and this is pretty far down the list. You would think this would be sooner, but at that point, you'll want to submit your application to Amtgard International to become a chapter. Amtgard.com/starting a chapter. We'll have pretty much, I think that's still the case for the current website design. They kind of sprung a new website on us recently, so might have to look around for that, but we'll find some links if we need to and alter this PowerPoint as needed. They do use electronic signatures, and they will require copies or scans of state IDs in the signing of that contract, that application. It's important to remember that Amtgard Inc. is staffed by volunteers. Like, it's people that care about Amtgard and are taking times out of their lives to try to make the group better. So we don't want to hassle them and bug them daily. Well, did you guys get to my contract? No, probably not. They were probably at work all day and are very tired now. Let them have a chance to recuperate, and they'll get to it when they get to it. But you can start taking sign-ins and having meetings even while your application is still being processed. So if that's what you need to do to pass the time, have in-person park meetings, as appropriate. This was filmed during the dark times, so yeah, even if it's just 4 officers doing this paperwork, like that's an Amtgard meeting right there. You're doing something Amtgard related. I would say sign in. Like if your prime minister, your regent, your monarch, like they're all there. Even if it's just the 3 people, sign in. Get sign-ins going. Start a Facebook group. Join the Facebook Freeholds of Amtgard group. Get talking to people in your area about Amtgard. Step 7 is garb and gear, which we had mentioned. Start thinking about them. This is the get them. So why do we wear garb and enforce that rule? It's mostly to make us look good. It's mostly to make us look appealing to outsiders. It makes us look weird and different, which is eye-catching. And then our activity hopefully will draw people in more. If you're struggling with garb and gear, there's tons of tutorials. Lyndon, Kelly, Lady A, that's just making tunics that I can think of. That's not even weapon tutorials, which there are tons on the internet. It's less important for garb to read the rule book and more important to read the rule book and look at weapon construction. So some people hear about Amtgard and they immediately go and blow part of their paycheck on buying new weapons and armor, only to find out that it doesn't meet standards and it's not cool to use on our fields. Always be cautious when you're buying stuff online and not in person and from somebody who maybe doesn't play Amtgard. That said, there's a ton of merchants out there that you can buy pre-built weapons from that are quality craftsmanship. And maybe you can commission a tunic or pants too. It's really a discussion about time, skill, and money. If you have the time and skill, it can be very cheap to produce a tunic on your own. I mean, I'm talking about less than $10 to get you a tunic. If you do very specific things. If you have money, you can absolutely substitute that time and skill with that money if that's what you want to do. I don't think that there's a wrong way to do that. It just depends on your lifestyle and what you've got going on. Thrift stores are extremely helpful in keeping that budget down. If you can find linen tablecloths, that's a great start for a tunic. And when you get to a point where you're trying to build weapons, you should really consider having non-combatants help learn to make weapons too. Just because, if you're running a class and your park is 5 people, well, one person's the teacher and you've got 4 other people sitting out in the crowd, and all of the non-combatants, which is 2 other people, decide that they don't want to build weapons. You're only making 3 swords when you could be building 5 if you can convince them to do it. If they decide that they don't want to do it and they are very adamant about it, that's fine too. Take what you can get. But you should still be having meetings. Just keep meeting, even if it's 3 people, if it's 5 people, just keep meeting and meet in public eye where you can, because just being in a gathering, wearing funny clothes, swinging foam sticks attracts more people who are interested in those sorts of things. Number 8 is heraldry. Keep it simple. I won't demean people by using the other S, but just simple is good. These were all done by Kelly. These were all done by Alona. You should try to make your group happy at least a little in its design, and it should probably be somewhat relevant to the name of the park. So Phoenix Tears is the one that's in the top left corner there. It's a teardrop in fire. Scholar Stronghold, bottom right, or bottom center rather. And top right is Lost Winds. If you are asking someone to do this for you, to make a digital version of this heraldry, or convert what you've got drawn on a napkin to something digital that you can use for marketing and you can use on the internet, pay them something, anything. Make sure you say thank you. Go out of your way to make sure that they know that they are appreciated, that their time is appreciated. Buy them dinner, buy them a coffee, buy them a stuffed animal, something, some way of saying thank you is important. I think that gets overlooked a lot in Amtgard culture at large. So I just wanted to touch on that real fast. We still good? We got questions yet? I'm going to take that as a no and keep on moving on. We're going to move to recruiting. Get your officers to bring friends. Get the people that you have to bring more people. The long and the short end of my marketing class is that the best tools that you have for marketing are word of mouth and giving somebody a business card, having a 15 to 30 minute conversation about what is Amtgard, and then putting a business card in their hand while it doesn't cast a wide net, it's very focused. It allows you to be very focused and convincing and getting someone to come play our game. And if you have you and you have 4 other people and everybody brings 1 more person, you have a 10-person park. And if they're all fighters, that's a 5-on-5 ditch. Like, that's significantly better than a 5-person park day. If there's a similar social circle, people are psychologically going to be more comfortable in coming to your park. So that's kind of why I emphasize on friends bringing friends. There are certainly ways to cold call or cold market to people at game stores, or you see somebody who has a sticker on their laptop that is nerd related in a Burger King or wherever. There are ways to do that. It's not something that I would recommend going with right off the bat. I would stick to friends, people that you know already, people that your friends know, and getting them comfortable with the idea of what Amtgard is, rather than just saying they should just come. If you are not recruiting, your group is actively shrinking. People just get busy. People decide that some things aren't worth effort, and your group is going to diminish over time. If you're not recruiting, you are shrinking. Cannot stress that enough. So here I kind of get into some of that advertising and marketing stuff. And these are just kind of the quick highlights on each of the ways that you can really easily and quickly advertise that your group is active and your group exists. Flyers are great because you can target the interest groups of people who are interested in sports, people who are interested in role-playing games, maybe people who are interested in other LARPs. You can set them and forget them, and lots of people will walk by them, but some people will see them. The problem is that they are not very effective because they are usually very brief and they don't paint a whole picture for people. And if you create a flyer that paints a whole picture, no one is going to read the entire flyer. Designing them is tricky, and even people who it is their job to design flyers sometimes can struggle with getting the message of what is Amtgard and why you should come out onto a single side of a sheet of paper. Business cards are great because they're portable. You can fit a stack of them in a wallet or purse or pocket or whatever. They're super affordable. You could get like 200 of them for $20. The downside is that there is very limited real estate on a business card, and you have to get somebody to take it, which is challenging in the dark times, because we're not going to social events and doing social things, and we're certainly not taking things from other people if we can help it. Talking is free. Talking you can do with a mask on from 6 feet away. You can target interests very specifically. So if you know somebody enjoys cosplay, maybe that's the angle that you attack and try to, bring them into the fold of your chapter of Amtgard and be like, look, there are people that need costumes and they are willing to pay money to get said costumes. Being connected to our group may have a financial gain for you. That's a very draconian discussion, but it could work. Talking is usually pretty effective because you establish a real rapport, you establish trust. If you are charismatic people like you, they are more likely to do what you ask of them. And I don't say that in a creepy, manipulative way. I say that in a realistic, psychological way. But talking is time consuming and tends to be hyper focused. So if you are not necessarily somebody who is in that realm of interest yourself, if you find somebody that's very interested in fighting, but maybe you're a non-combatant, you may struggle and find it difficult to communicate what fighting in Amtgard is like. Maybe, I don't know. It's not a 100% concrete thing, but that's the first example that pops to mind. I think the best strategy though is talking in business cards. Again, 15 to 30 minute business card. or 15 to 30-minute conversation, hand them a business card, ask them to think about it. And that's all. Like, you can just go back to your normal day and whatever you were doing with them before that. If they were in your social circle, or if they were just somebody that was at a Burger King, you can go on from there. Social media advertising is a little more complicated. Typically, you can advertise on your page as an individual and say, hey, I did this awesome thing this weekend. Throw up a picture of you fighting somebody from a cell phone. It's personal, and it is targeted at the people that you already know who probably have similar interests. It's free. Typically, it has limited impact because not everyone is willing to be in public in funny clothes and do something that kind of has a stigma associated to it. Not everyone is as actively ready to play Amtgard as people who already play Amtgard. Facebook pages can have a larger impact, but at the end of the day, they can cost money. If you're trying to run targeted ads, you can easily spend $20 a week and hit, I think it's something like 200 to 300 people in your town. And as you go statewide and change the number of people who can see it every day, it becomes more expensive. TikTok is a great alternative to trying to do this. It is free. Anybody can start a TikTok. It casts a very wide net. And I say that in negative because you're talking about playing Amtgard in one town and advertising to the world that Amtgard is a thing and that this chapter is a thing. So it's very luck based. You're not going to necessarily even hit anyone that's in your town with this TikTok ever, because there is so much on that platform going on all the time. But if we as a collective, we as Amtgard flood TikTok with the things that we're making, our park days, cool stuff that we see, things that we want to apply to Amtgard, footage from events, ditch fields, whatever. As we put more onto that platform, we will start to see hits. We will start to see people creep in. We will start to see people find their way to Amtgard. So I think that's a very good platform to keep in mind, even though it casts that wide net, which may not necessarily impact you or your efforts as a new park. Twitch is good too. Twitch is free. Anybody can start a Twitch account and record what they're doing. If you're able to do Zoom calls, which I think pretty much everybody is at this point, you can pretty much run a Twitch account and, craft, intimately explain with your audience what you're doing, why you're showing this, what Amtgard is, where you play, if you want to give that information away, why they should play, and have that discussion. Visibility can be mixed. If most of your friends on Facebook are people who already play Amtgard, advertising your Twitch account to your Facebook will just bring you more Amtgarders. So it's sticky. We're still talking about recruiting. I would avoid heraldry and obscure jargon. If you're saying things like Amtgard and Monarch and Wacky Bats and, people are going to tune out. As soon as they stop understanding, they are going to tune out and not listen to you. One of the most effective flyers I've seen for Amtgard was describing hitting people with safe foam sticks, not swords, not like they just stripped away everything and talked about Amtgard as like the most alien activity to them, so disconnected from it. Jargon 9 times out of 10 will turn people off. Even if you're at like a convention and they kind of understand what they're getting into, it's best to explain in pure, simple English to people what you're trying to get them to do, what you expect of them, why you do what you do. Communicate clearly. Investigating local events and affairs is a good option too, so you can get in at ground levels at cons. I've helped out with a couple of conventions, and most of the time they just let you in for free. Sometimes you might have to pay. It depends on the size of the con and the rules that they have. But we did Peoria Con here in Illinois just before all the lockdown stuff happened, and we were fighting on gravel, which was unfortunate. But fighting on gravel for 8 hours could yield some people coming and playing. We had a big bag of swords. We made literally 100 swords for people to play with, and I think we took 75 of them because that was all that would fit in the bag, and we had over 100 waivers signed and people who played Amtgard. Even if it was just for a couple of minutes, even if it was just haha, I want to hit my brother with one of these sticks, they were engaged and they became more comfortable with the idea of what we are, and that's powerful, and can really help you get more people there, because it's not always about catching people on the first interaction with Amtgard. Sometimes they have to see it 2-3 times before the advertising works. Okay, we're done with recruiting. You have people, you should train them. And that's all the kinds of teaching that exist in Amtgard. Job shadowing, especially for prime ministers, is a great way if somebody wants to be involved with the offices of Amtgard. Teach and find teachers. Lyndon is an amazing teacher from everything that I've seen. Geldar recently started a park and has been running like classes every week, and it's stellar because it keeps your park engaged. It keeps them talking about Amtgard, especially in these times, as I will continue to reference them. And it expands and cross-pollinates ideas, and convince the new people to run for office, because you're going to want to leave office at some point, because you're tired, because you've done it, because you're out of ideas, or because somebody has a better idea. So teaching them gets them prepared, gets them ready for the run up, and then let the bird leave the nest and do their own thing, and then you can go and do your own thing. And maybe that's a higher end politics. Later down the road, you decide you want to run for something for kingdom or principality. Step 11, meet and collaborate. Weekly meetings. I know that they are not entirely doable right now. They're not going to be the same as what they were prior to COVID. But have weekly meetings on Discord, and if that's just pop-ins and checkups about how people are doing and how they're coping, that's fine. That's fantastic. When you can do weekly in-person meetings, remember where, what, when. Where are you going to be? What do I need to know about this site, and when do I need to be there? One of the big, what do I need to know is where's a bathroom, because people got to go. Parking spaces, space to fight in, and are there any shelters? And you can scout parks from Google Maps now, and it's amazing. I can start a park. I live near Springfield, Illinois. I'm starting a park in Decatur, Illinois, which is like a half an hour away. Trying to, but I was able to scout out parks and find, what's the best park without having to run to all of the parks in Decatur in a day and try to make it back and do everything else that I had to do in a day. Technology is your friend. Meet weekly when you can, get people together. And what I mean by that is people who have knowledge and people who do not have knowledge. Somebody who knows how to make garb and a player who needs garb and is a new player. Get them together and get them to talk, get them to figure out how to get them in garb. And yeah, you don't need to be in person. Twitch, Discord, Facebook, there's tons of ways to connect with people right now. And if the weather is awful or there's something that prevents you from having an in-person park day, skip straight to an after party. Go to my favorite after Amtgard thing is to go to Chinese buffets. It's just my thing. I like it. I like to play Amtgard and then go to Chinese buffets. I have a good time there. I've seen other parks that do karaoke. Some parks retire to someone's house and have a barbecue. There's things to do after Amtgard with each other, and we can do things together to build our community other than just play stick tag. Step 12, do what you love. Do what is comfortable. Do the thing that keeps you in Amtgard. and don't necessarily chase it for awards. Don't necessarily be doing it for awards. Be doing it because you love it. Encourage challenge for yourself and others. Always be learning, always find somewhere to learn something about the thing that you love, whether that's, even if that's just like a different paradigm or a different way of looking at something. It's important to understand it, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. Amtgard has many facets, and no one person can claim those facets for their own. You know, Lyndon is an amazing artist. Lyndon doesn't claim one box of art that nobody else can do. You can have lots of garbers in your park. You can have lots of garbers in your kingdom. Maybe somebody does applique really well and somebody just does basic tunics really well. Like there's, again, 100 ways inside of 100 ways to enjoy Amtgard. And be sure to hand out some appropriate awards. A lot of people are sketchy about handing out awards. Oh, we're doing it too fast, we're getting them too ready for knighthood, or we're spoiling the pot too soon and giving somebody all of their awards right out of the gate. We're gonna run them off because they can't earn anything else. No, if they deserve the award, if they have no garbers and they make a tunic, give them a garber. If they make a better tunic, they get their second garber, and if they make a better tunic than that last one, they get another garber. They're here to do the thing that they love, and awards oftentimes function as a positive reinforcement for that behavior. So if you want to see them continue to make garb, give them the award. Everything afterwards, after you've got a park, you'll probably want to find a kingdom, so that you have a larger community to play with, a larger community to communicate with, a larger community to learn from. Get involved in bigger projects and just have fun. Lately, I've been in some stuff with Amtgard where I've had to deal with disciplinary procedures, or I've had to deal with just talking to a kingdom that is hostile about the number of credits that my principality has handed out, or something. And the thing that keeps me grounded and having fun is that I remember that our hobby, our collective hobby, and this is more than just Amtgard, this is Belogarth, this is Nero, this is all of those other games. Our collective hobby is to pretend to be a wizard in a public park. And it keeps me grounded. It just reminds me like how ridiculous it is to be mad about certain things, and really brings me back to having fun. So however you need to do that, however you need to be reminded to have fun, do it. The problems with parks. Before I start there, I realize it's been a minute since I've taken any questions. Do we have any questions? No, none so far? Okay. Problems. Most problems in a park boil down to personality X versus personality Y. And there it is again. We are nerds in a park pretending to be wizards. Oh, there's chats. My bad. Let me catch up on chat real quick. Sign in for credit. Yep. Okay, thank you for the compliment on the demonstration. Everybody should, when you have problems, when there is conflict, everybody should take a step back. Just everybody breathe and remember, like, we're in this argument because we're passionate about our hobby, and we care. We all care, and it's important to be compassionate about that. Try to mediate it on your own. If it's two people externally, having a monarch in there to kind of buffer the argument and keep things from going sour is helpful. If you are in the monarchy and somebody in the populace has a problem, it might be a little more difficult. Just slow down and be cool with each other. Try to understand things from other people's perspectives. And if you can't moderate them on your own locally, don't be afraid to reach out, find a veteran, talk to somebody, in a higher station, talk to a local kingdom, talk to, if you have that one connection, even if they're on the other side of the country, they may have the information that helps. They may not have the perspective that helps. Talk to other people about the problem constructively. Don't just, that expletive guy over there is making my life harder, is making my life more difficult. Don't just rag on him. Try to understand where he's coming from. Where does that passion come from? Where does that ideal come from? And try to work with it, work into it, and then make them as happy as you can. You're not always going to be able to make everyone happy. But try as much as you can, as much as is healthy, I guess is the way that I should put that.
Just jumping in here. Yeah. Just to jump in here with a 10-minute zoning video.
I don't think there's too much more, as I recall. Yeah, then there's resources to help you solve those problems, whether that's like the rulebook at amtgard.com, finding other parks and finding people in them, the online record keeper, the Freeholds of Amtgard Facebook page, or reading the 5-page document that I wrote that informed this PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Questions? You all just want to hang out and talk for 9 minutes? Thanks for inviting me. These are all my social media things if you want to hang out and talk more or do more things with me.
I think the class was really good. I'm going to stop recording now.
Sounds
Hold
good.
on, don't stop.
Don't stop.
Don't stop. When you were starting a park, how do you go about approaching parks and recreation to allow you to collect at your park?
What was the question? Sorry, it was a little muffled.
One second, sorry.
No problem.
How do you go about approaching parks and recreation in order to allow you to collect at park?
Oh, like allow you to like assemble as a group there? Or something else?
No, that was correct. How do you convince Parks and Recreation to allow you to assemble as a group?
Well, so long as your group isn't super recluse or, violating park rules, you're probably cool to be there. Most of the time when I start a park, I will grab another person and I will just go somewhere and we'll spar. Just me and them, and, so long as we don't get stopped, I mean, that's a pretty good sign to take it to the next step, bring another person or another 2 people. If you have serious concerns about that, I would seek out their offices. Most park and recreation departments have an office and you can go talk to somebody. It's important when you go talk to them, though, not to be like, hi, I'm the monarch, and like, hi, I am the president of a chapter of Amtgard. This is what we do. This is what we actually do, right? We are a LARP. This is how that gets interpreted, right? This is what we play with, I don't recommend necessarily leading with like bow and arrow. Usually if you bring up bow and arrow, it gets struck down pretty quick. But just go and say, hey, is it cool if my organization once a week between these hours meets and plays our game? And most recreation groups are going to be happy to have you. A lot of organizations that manage parks get money. And this was the case for Scholar Stronghold because we were actually using through the winter months, we were using the gym to hold meetings, and they would give us like one whole basketball court to play in. And the reason that they were super willing to do that, and the reason that I would imagine a park is super willing to do that, is that they receive income based on traffic. That may not be the case for your park and recreation department. It might be, but be cool and reach an understanding, I guess, is the long and the short of it. Is just no is okay. We'll find another park. You know, and if it comes to a situation where, you know, I've heard people say that the city just doesn't want Amtgard in their city. Find another city. Like, drive 15 minutes. Do what you got to do to get there, you know. Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yes, that answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I can't stress communication enough, and professional. You know, go in a polo and slacks if that's your, you know, your business casual. Show them that you're not just like a weirdo. like there's that stigma of LARP, right? Everybody hears LARP and they think Knights of Badassdom or role models or something. Like, show them that we are just people who have a good time in a way that is maybe non-standard. Anything else?
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. I think we're good. I think we can cut recording.